Hello, sixth graders. Welcome to 6.4. Today we'll be discussing absolute value. For our learning target, I can describe how to find the absolute value of numbers. And while absolute value might be a new idea for you or a new topic that maybe you've never heard of, I assure you, I think you'll catch on easy, um, uh, catch on pretty quickly and think it's easy. But um, the idea of absolute value is even more important than finding our answers this section. I think you'll be able to whip through this section rather quickly, but keep in mind that the idea of it is kind of the bigger picture we're going after. And you'll see that once we start adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing these integers or uh, a lot of times negative numbers. All right, for words, it says the absolute value of a number is the distance between the number and 0 on a number line. The absolute value of a number A is written as, it looks like these two railroad tracks. Those two railroad tracks mean find the absolute value of A. Or if we were to plug in a number there, find the absolute value of -2. And what that means is how far is -2 from 0 on a number line? Well, you'll see -2 is 2 spots from 0. And +2 is 2 spots from 0 as well, right? So we'll get into some of the key talking points of absolute value here shortly. Letter A says, find the absolute value of -3. All right, or excuse me, it says of +3. And I'm going to do kind of like the previous example and start with a number line. We got -3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And it wants the absolute value of 3. Okay, well, here's 3. And remember, absolute value is how far away is this from 0? Well, it's 1, 2, 3 spots. The answer is 3. So it kind of seems weird that it might be that easy, but the absolute value of 3 is 3. It's 3 away from 0 on a number line. And let's just do letter B here, and then we'll talk a little bit of the logistics here. The absolute value of -2.5. All right, let's make a number line again. That looks similar. -3, 2, 1, 0, 1, so on and so forth, right? -2.5 would be -1, -2, and halfway to -3. And how far away is 2.5? Come on, work with me here, pen. From 0. Well, it's 1, 2.5. It's the absolute value of -2.5 is 2.5. It's 2.5 spots away from 0. And you'll notice here that this one I had a +3, and my answer was a +3. And this one I started with a -2.5, and my answer was a +2.5. So in both cases, I ended up with a positive answer. So is absolute value always going to be positive, Mr. Gillis? Yes, but sometimes they can throw in tricky problems, and I'll show you one of those here. But remember, because it's distance that we're measuring, that's a positive result. Okay, you don't go negative distances. It'd be like if I asked you to grab a ruler and see how far something away is from something, you're always going to get a positive answer. There's not negative numbers on rulers or tape measures or anything like that. And so when we're measuring distance and seeing how far away something is from, this case, 0, you're going to end up with a positive answer. Now, here is the one time when you could get something negative. And I might write this down if I were you, because sometimes you'll see this. they might say the negative is written outside of the absolute value sign. So then they might say something like -2. Find the absolute value of -2. Well, that would be 2, but then they're saying since this is outside of the absolute value sign, apply that to your number that you found that was the absolute value of -2. So since the absolute value of -2 is +2, then we apply the negative to that. So it would actually be -2. This is the one case if that negative sign is written outside of your absolute value sign, then you can have a negative answer. That's about the only time that you'll see where absolute value has a negative result. All right, go ahead and pause this video now to try 1 through 6 on your own. Okay, hopefully you did all right with these and you're realizing that you can get through them quick. 8, the absolute value of 8 is 8 away from 0. -6 is 6 away from 0. 0 is 0 away from 0. It's not any distance away from 0. 1/4 or a quarter is a quarter away from 0. -7 1/3 is 7 1/3 away from 0. You're catching on, I can just tell. -12.9 is 12.9 away from 0. Notice that these should all be positive answers because we're talking about distance here. There aren't any negative signs out in front of that absolute value sign. Notice how my answer 2 is just this number. Sometimes I'll have students put an answer, like if they saw the absolute value of -6, they'd say, well, that's 6. Don't include these in your answer. Those two parallel bars are saying find the absolute value of the number inside. All right, in example 2, you have a situation where you'll compare a couple numbers. And what I would recommend that you do first is to actually find the absolute value and then compare your answers. So for our first one here, I'll find the absolute value of -5, which -5 is 5 away from 0. So then I just have to compare 2 and 5. Well, 5 is greater than. So I would say 2 is less than the absolute value of -5 because, sorry, my line isn't very straight there. The absolute value of -5 is +5, and that is greater than 2. All right, try problems like that on your own with 7 through 10. Pause the video now. Okay, for number 7, absolute value of -4 is +4, and a positive is always greater than a negative. This one, absolute value of 5 is 5, and again, a positive is always greater than a negative, so Pac-Man eats the bigger number. Here, absolute value of 9 is 9, and 9 is less than 10. And lastly, for number 10, the absolute value of -3.9 is 3.9, and 3.9 is equal to 3.9. Let me know if you had any questions on those. All right, we will end today with this third example, the real-life application. And it says the table shows elevations of several animals. Which animal is the deepest, and explain. And then letter B says, is the shark or lion closer to sea level? Right? So I've got some kind of bigger numbers here, and I also want to be able to graph this so I can visually see kind of what I'm working with and what my different elevations are here in this problem. Again, sorry my lines are not perfectly straight. I see that my most positive number is 56, and my most negative number is -65. So I'm definitely not going to go by ones here. Rather, I think I'll go by tens. So about halfway, let's call that 0. Or, in other words, in the context of this problem, it would be, looks like sea level. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Okay, I don't even have to go that high. -10, -20, -30, -40, -50, -60, -70. All right, going by tens. So my shark is at -4, so if this is -10, it'd be right around half. I'm just going to use arrows then. Sea line's at 5. Okay. Seagulls at 56, which makes sense. They do fly in the air. Shrimp is -65, so between 60 and 70. And again, makes sense. They are below sea level. And then turtle, -22, 10, 22. So turtle. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things are graphed there. It asks which animal is the deepest and explain. Well, you can see by making a vertical number line, it makes it really easy to tell here which one of these is the deepest. And that is represented by the lowest number on the number line, which in this case is -65, which is the shrimp. Okay, and it wants us to explain. Well, the lowest elevation represents the animal that is the deepest. The integer that is the lowest is -65. It's the most negative. All right. And then lastly, letter B says, is the shark or lion closer to sea level? Well, remember, sea level is 0 right here. Which one is closer to sea level? Well, the shark is at -4, and the sea lion is at 5. Remember, when we're measuring distance, we can use absolute value. So the shark is -4, so the absolute value of -4. And the sea lion is at 5, the absolute value of 5. Let's see what these are. This is 4 away from 0, or 4 away from sea level. And 5 is 5 away from sea level. Remember the distance. And which one is closer to sea level? Which one is closer to 0? Well, 4 is closer to sea level. So the shark is closer to sea level because it's only 4, and it'd be feet away. Even though it's underneath the sea level, it's still only 4 feet away, whereas the sea lion is 5 feet away, or 5 feet above sea level. Right. Hopefully that makes sense. And like I said, absolute value students tend to usually catch on quick, but the bigger idea is more important as we move forward. So let me know if you have more questions. I'll do my best to help, and I will see you guys next time.